Welcome back, folks. Greg Silverman here, Chief Investment Officer, Chief Financial Officer. Taking a look at some articles that did well in a Come Learn With Me session. This one's interesting. We've been watching, I would call it the slow motion crash in China for a number of years now. We've been bearish as heck on China for a number of years, forecasting there'd be a real estate and banking crash or crisis. And so, anyway, as we watch, we're just watchers, right? So let's read this together, see what it's about. From Bloomberg, the big take. China's Gen Z is dejected, underemployed, and slowing the economy. Younger workers' ambitions and salary expectations are diminishing in the wake of COVID and the tech crackdown. Oh, that's awful. University graduates at job fair in Zhengzhou, Henan province. Okay. The most educated generation in China's history was supposed to blaze a trail towards more innovative and technologically advanced economy. Instead, about 15 million young people are estimated to be jobless, and many are lowering their ambitions. Wow. The perfect storm of factors has propelled unemployment among 16 to 24-year-old urbanites to a record 19.3%. Wow, that's high. More than twice the comparable rate in the US. The government's hardline coronavirus strategy has led to layoffs, while its regulatory crackdown on real estate and education companies has hit the private sector. At the same time, a record number of college and vocational school graduates, some 12 million, are entering the job market this summer. This highly educated cohort has intensified a mismatch between available roles and job seekers' expectations. It results in an increasingly disillusioned young population losing faith in private companies and willing to accept lower pay in the state sector. If the trend continues, growth in the world's second largest economy stands to suffer. The sheer number of jobless under 25s amount to a 2 to 3% reduction in China's workforce. And fewer workers means lower gross domestic product. Unemployment and underemployment also continue to impact salaries for years. The 2020 review of studies reported a 3.5% reduction in wages among those who had experienced unemployment 5 years earlier. Wow. More young people, and I'm sure inflation's raging in China as well. More young people taking roles in government may leave fewer jobs into new sectors and fueling innovation. The structural adjustment faced by China's economy right now actually needs more people to become entrepreneurs and strive, says Xing Jiangquan, head of China Institute for Employment Research in Beijing. Lowered expectations have damaged the utilization of the young labor force. He added, it's not a good thing for the economy. No, it's not. High achievers. China's pool of graduates has grown more than tenfold over the past 20 years. Pre-pandemic, 22-year-old Zhu Shoguan was prepared for a career in China's creative industries, but a fruitless 4-month job hunt has left him setting his sights on the state sector. Under the COVID outbreak, many private companies are very unstable, says Zhu, who majored in visual art at a mid-ranked university. That's why I want to be with a state-owned enterprise. Zhu is not alone. Some 39% of graduates listed state-owned companies as their top choice of employer last year, according to Recruitment Job 51 Job Inc. That's up from 25% in 2017. A further 28% chose government jobs as their first choice. It's a rational response in a pandemic-hit labor market. All workplaces have been hit hard by China's snap lockdowns and strict quarantine measures, but private companies were more likely to lay off workers. Beijing's main employment-boosting policy has been to order the state sector to increase hiring. Zhu Chongguang. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, sir. President Xi Jinping may be relieved that the country's unemployed youth are trying to join the government rather than overthrow it. During a June visit to university in China's Sichuan province, he advised graduates to prevent the situation in which one is unfit for a higher position but unwilling to take a lower one. He added that to get rich and get fame overnight is not realistic. Wow. So pouring some cold water. The message is getting through. Graduate expectations for starting salaries fell more than 6% from last year to $6,295 won, $932 per month. So that's a graduate starting salary. According to an April survey from recruitment firm Zillion, state-owned enterprises grew in appeal over the same period, the recruiter said. But lower income expectations and talent shunning the private sector are likely to lower growth in the long term, challenging the president's plan to double the size of China's economy from 2020 levels by 2035, by which point it would likely overtake the US in size. The phrase Tang Ping, lying flat, spread through China's internet last year. The slogan evoked dropping out of the rat race and doing the bare minimum to get by, and reflected the desire for a better work-life balance in the face of China's slowing growth. As the unemployment situation has continued to worsen, many young people have adopted an even more fatalistic catchphrase, "Bai Lan," or "let it rot." Yeah, unemployment's not fun, is it? That concept is kind of mental relaxation. It says, "Hu zia ku, zia ui, zia we, zia we." A 24-year-old with a psychology master's degree. This way, even if you fail, you will feel better. When Hu started looking for work last August, she found it easy to land interviews. But when it came to spring, only 1 in 10 companies would offer an interview. She said it fell off a cliff. Jobless youth, China's. Oh boy. All right, let's keep going. It's quite interesting. China's state-owned enterprise, SOEs. China's state-owned enterprise, SOEs, aren't all unproductive behemoths, but the weight of economic evidence suggests they are, on the whole, less efficient, less innovative than privately owned companies. China's economic boom has coincided with a falling share of SOE jobs in urban employment from 40% in 1996 to less than 10% pre-pandemic. That trend could now go in reverse. Last year, China launched a regulatory crackdown on formerly high-flying sectors dominated by private companies that previously attracted ambitious young people. The internet companies were hit with fines for monopolistic behavior. Real estate businesses were starved of financing, and the private tutoring sector was almost entirely shuttered. Regulatory findings show that China's top 5 listed education companies reduced their staffing by 135,000 in the last year after the crackdown. Wow. The largest tech companies have kept their headcount stable, and Zillion said that there were more tech jobs advertised in the first half of this year in the same period in 2021. Even so, the sector's allure has faded. A graduate of the highly ranked Central University of Finance and Economics in Beijing, who was set for the tech sector, she interned at 3 internet companies, including video sharing giant Beijing Kaishu Technology Co. But she has changed her mind. People who are going to work for internet companies are all worrying about themselves because they feel that they could be fired any time, she said. Instead, Hu landed a position at a research institute within state-owned China Telecom Corp. The working hours of my future job will be 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and the workload will be quite light. Internet companies are too consuming, she said. As well as the movement of talent towards state-owned companies, there's another mechanism at work that can damage long-term growth. Studies from the US, Europe, and Japan have shown that the longer young people are unemployed at the start of their careers, the worse their long-term incomes, an effect known as scarring. Never heard that before. That's the risk-facing Bayo, who was laid off from an e-commerce company this year. The 26-year-old who gave only one name because she feared that talking about losing a job could hit her employment prospects, missed out on a role with TikTok parent company ByteDance Inc. because of her limited experience. I'm a good candidate with potential, but they want to see me in 2 years, she said. And how can I get the experience if no one gives me a job now? State sector already employs around 80 million people, and the figure could grow by as much as 2 million on a net basis this year, according to Lu Feng, labor economist at Peking University. But compared with total demand for jobs, it's still relatively small, he said. We still need private firms to hire. That will only happen if the economy grows. To meet its employment goals, economists say China needs GDP to increase between 3 and 5% this year. That's quite low on their standards, right? Economists are predicting growth closer to 4%, but the outlook highly uncertain due to the prospect of more lockdowns to contain the spread of the coronavirus. Lack of clarity on existing strategy from the COVID zero policy makes companies wary of hiring, says Shang Shu, Bloomberg economist, chief Asia economist. Beijing has launched a version of the job support program seen in Europe during the pandemic, offering tax rebates and direct subsidies to companies who promise to retain workers. But the amounts involved are small. Good. Okay. The incentives of hiring new workers is just 1,500 yuan. Provincial subsidies for graduates who start business are also small, just 10,000 yuan in the prosperous Guangdong region. Now I'm going to scan through the rest of this. Xi Jinping greets teachers and students. In the end, she won a government position in Zhejiang province where some roles attract as many as 200. I felt I became increasingly opposed to the capitalist pursuit of wealth after I read Marx, and in the end, I chose to become a civil servant. Okay, and that ends it. Well, very interesting. Very interesting. No matter what economic system you got, if it goes up and it goes down, it's going to cause waves and volatility. So, interesting article. Hope you enjoyed that one. Subscribe and like. Join us again for another article soon. Greg Silverman out for now.